Hello and welcome to the new video. Today we're going to take a look at a Pokemon that you rarely really see nowadays in the Open Great League. We're going to take a look at Mew. Mew learns a lot of different moves, actually like the most amount of moves in the game. But sadly this Pokemon is not really that common anymore. I don't actually know really why, because it's actually really cool. Right now we're going to have a meta which is based around Gligar, which we're going to have Surf for, as well as the Medicham, which we're going to just in general kind of hard wall. So Mew actually was a really cool Pokemon to use, and I don't even feel like that I had the best matchups with it in general, but I still came on top on most of my matches that I played with this team, which I found really interesting. For sure we're going to have an interesting backline here as well, with Pelipper plus Registeel. Those two Pokemon are just a great core together. Basically, it's not very common that you kind of want to swap out, only if you really get hard-walled, and then depends on which Pokemon you really want to swap out into. Usually I go into my Pelipper, but again, it's not usually how you want to play this team. You kind of want to just stay in with your Mew, try to win the lead matchup with this Pokemon, as you always can have like some kind of option against most Pokemon here. Here we're going to be able to take this Psycho Boost from the opponent. Now Mew is going to go up against two different Pokemon. Let's see what's coming in next. It's going to be the Azumarill actually. So they're running a double Water Fairy in the back, which is going to be amazing for us. I just decided to go straight for it because I know that the opponent has some energy stored onto their other Water Fairy type Pokemon. So I wanted to basically make sure that I'm going to be able to hit the next charge move without using a shield, which works out super well, as I'm now going to shield up a Surf, which doesn't really matter, as a 1 Hurricane is all it takes to knock out the opponent. And we can move on into the next game coming up. Let's take a look at the next one. We're going to encounter here, let's see, the Mew against a Lickitung. Horrible lead. What do? We're going to go ahead and go into our Pelipper. Again, it kind of depends on what you're going to encounter in the lead. For example here, Lickitung is fairly bad against Registeel, so we're going to keep our Registeel in the back. But still, with Pelipper, you're still going to be able to do some very decent damage. As you're going to see here, we're going to do some decent damage with our charge move, the Weather Ball, but I can still use a shield and force a shield from the opponent as well, which is going to be amazing, hopefully, as I can just go for the Weather Ball spam. It's not too bad for Pelipper. I think two-shield scenario are going to be a little bit more awkward, but we're going to be even able to either realign or get a shield advantage here. And I will take the realignment here, as now, if they're going to have a Medicham in the back, which they do, I can align my Mew against them. And this is basically how this team going to work. You're going to try to always align your Pokemon correctly with this one, which works out fairly well in most cases. And now we can actually have our Registeel aligned against the opponents. Sableye, I decided to use a shield here because I can at least try to get a debuff onto my Registeel, and I have to say, again, as basically in every video I use Registeel, I was insanely unlucky with debuffs. Here I was able to get this one, but honestly, I think this, I didn't look through the gameplay anymore, but I remember definitely being insanely unlucky with this Pokemon, again, getting next to no debuffs in total. So it's kind of awkward always, but this is, I guess, the game that we play. I don't know what is wrong with my Registeels, honestly. I definitely don't get the 66% chance, like, not even close. I'm around like 40% or whatever usually. So it's of course something that's always kind of awkward with Registeel nowadays, since it's only 66%, which is still, while I'm complaining about it, that I don't get the chance most of the time there. It's still better than what it was before. Before it was like for a long time 100%, making Registeel way too broken. So I still like that there is the option to not get basically the buff. Like, I think it's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, like, definitely. We want to have here now Diggersby in the lead. This is a little bit awkward because actually this is something where we kind of want to stay in again. If they're going to run Hyper Beam, I kind of want to maybe shield this move up, but I don't, and they're going to get actually the attack drop, which is going to be okay for us because we can swap out into our Registeel against the opponent's Wigglytuff. So luckily they decide to swap out. They're having two normal types around is kind of awkward for our Mew, as we have Shadow Claw as our fast move, but still we're going to be able to later on realign our Pelipper against the opponent, which is going to be amazing because of course Pelipper going to be one of the best answers for the Diggersby. Here we can still go for a Focus Blast, knock them out, and we're going to try to get to another Focus Blast in time. Let's see if we can get there. We cannot. They can still get to their Scorching Sands, which we're going to let it go through, as we can now align our Pelipper. And let's see what they're going to have in the back. It's going to be the Alolan Shadow Ninetales. But luckily, it is Powder Snow. If they weren't Powder Snow, this would have been way worse for me, because yeah, here right now at least I'm going to be able to farm the opponent down, get them a little bit lower, just get those Surfs off. But with Charm they would have been just able to farm me all the way down, because Shadow Charm from the Ninetales is doing so much damage against Pelipper as well as Mew, that I'm really happy about the moveset that they are running. And I can just use a shield here as well just to be safe. Going to be a Weather Ball. and I can decide to farm them all the way down, and I'm going to use another shield here just to be safe, because I can still just try to go for some weather balls against the opponent's Digger Speed, and I don't really think there's anything that they can do anymore to win this game, but maybe I'm wrong. We will see here. We can still go for another weather ball just to get the knockout here in time, which is going to be amazing, and we will see the Ninetales going down as well. So our Pelipper came in clutch here, was able to win this game. Horrible lead, what do? We're going to swap out into Pelipper, and this is something that you're going to encounter eventually as well. There are going to be teams that you're not going to be able to beat. I actually really wonder what the opponent's team is really doing there, because they have already a double fighting type weakness, so if we were running a fighting type, it would have been definitely a bit difficult, but I guess this is like the thing why I made a video recently about Medicham. Medicham is really cool in the current meta, because a lot of people are double weak to fighting, because something like a Gligar, something like the Registeel is going to be fine against the Medicham, because you're going to be able to resist usually the charge move, which is really nice, so it doesn't really matter if you're really weak to it, because you're still going to win the zero shield scenario. But as you're going to see here, it is not really looking too good for me, especially as I use 2 shields against the Registeel to realign, so I don't have the Mew against the opponent's Greninja. But I guess it was not really the smartest plays. I'm going to be able to still get 1 shield back, but they should let this move go through, which they do. And we're most likely going to get completely destroyed by the Greninja now, as we are going to be able to catch a move, which is going to be the Night Slash for sure. Not going to do too much damage, hopefully, as we will see another charge move coming through. This is going to be the Hydro Cannon, doing a lot of damage actually, and I cannot outspeed them. I don't think I can outspeed them. The opponent catches a move, great play by them. Would have loved to farm them all the way down. But like this, the opponent is in such a commanding spot that, yes, Greninja is a very tough Pokemon to deal with, and Superior in the back is also now a little bit tricky if your best answers are kind of damaged. Usually not the biggest issue. Your lead is going to have both charge moves double resisted, which was also like something I was considering out changing, that I might get rid of the Wild Charge here for something like a Flame Charge, just to hit those Steel-type Pokemon like the Alolan Sandslash, as well as I would be able to just in general hit like those Grass-type Pokemon, which I currently would not be able to hit, which we can see here as well. But at the end of the day, I felt like Wild Charge was kind of valuable, and now after playing this team, I'm kind of 50-50. You could decide to go for Flame Charge, and I think it would be not the worst idea, but also on the other hand, I feel like right now, yeah, I don't know, I think Wild Charge is definitely going to give you a little bit of better option, especially as a lead, because you can just go for Wild Charge and then just dip out of there. And here we're going to see actually the Ninetales again, which is kind of funny. They're going to go for the Weather Wall, which is fine for us. We can align our Registeel, and again it's Powder Snow, which I find kind of interesting, because I haven't really seen Powder Snow alone Ninetales prior. But for me it's better than Charm, so I'm not going to complain about this one. So we're going to be able to still go for another Zap Cannon, get them low, and try to go for the full farm down here with my Registeel. We're just going to go all out for the energy, as the opponent decides to go for a Dazzling Gleam, trying to do as much damage as possible. You're gonna fully farm them down. We can still go for a charge move against the opponent's Marowak, getting some damage onto them, and we can now swap into our Mew, which is going to try to win this game for us. It's going to be a little bit difficult, because I'm going to be forced to use basically a Wild Charge and try to hit the opponent with that one, but I decided to not do this. I decided to go for the bait, and this turns out to be kinda bad for me, because now the opponent is still going to have their Pokemon left. They're going to still have the Drapion here, but for whatever reason they decided to no shield there, which is really weird, as they definitely would have been able to still get to move, get like the final shield by me, and I think it would have been way closer. Next opponent, great lead for us. We're gonna see the Lickitung swapping in, and maybe, just maybe I should have went for a charge move first, but I actually don't really care about like realigning here anyway, because both of my Pokemon that are going to be left on my team are going to be nice against the opponent's Medicham. Against Lickitung, you always want to go for the Zap Cannon so you can get the debuff beforehand. As said before, I'm always super lucky with that kind of stuff, but we can at least still try to go for another charge move here. In comes another Zap Cannon. At least now we're going to be able to get the debuff here. That's going to be fine. They're going to use a shield. Of course, no debuff again. And we still would have been able to get to another charge move, but of course now like this, it's going to be a little bit tough. So yeah, no debuffs there after 2 Zap Cannons is kind of awkward for us and putting us in a very bad spot, because now I have to shield this body slam, which would have done quite a decent amount of damage, and beforehand I would have been just able to take those moves very easier. We've been able to farm a little bit higher up there, because I don't really want to get hit by a move, and now we're going to have a Carbink in the back, which is going to be really bad for us. So I feel like this would have been so much different compared like to what it is here right now, just because it's a little bit difficult here now to come back from this one, especially with Carbink in the back being able to destroy my Pelipper. I will be able to use a CMP tie here against the opponent's Medicham to get to a Surf and knock them out, which is cool. And honestly, it all comes down to Mew at this point. Can we still get to another serve? Are we bulky enough? And we are just barely bulky enough to get to another serve, which is really important. As we can see, we're gonna get them super low, and now I just have to hope that I can just get another weather ball after this one and they don't get to 2 rock sides. But as we can see, they're going to let the move go through, knowing that I would have been able to get to another rock side anyway. So this is so nice for me. Now, next game, going to be against Gligar. It's actually not as great as it of course seems like. You're going to have Surf, which is super effective, but still, you are only running non-step charge moves, while the opponent is only running step charge moves. So, yeah, it's a little bit tricky, but they're going to try to catch anyway on the Lantern, which allows me to swap out into my Registeel. Lantern is a little bit tricky with this team for sure. You kind of most likely want to try to still survive one charge move against them with your lead. They might go for Thunderbolt, which might be a little bit awkward, but just try to go for back-to-back Zap Cans in order to get some damage onto them with Mew, which is, I guess, the best way to do something here. But we're gonna see the Thunderbolt coming through. We are still 1 shield down, as I'm gonna be able to still go for the Focus Blast, which is gonna get the knockout against the opponent, getting rid of the hardest answer for my Pelipper, allowing me to swap out back into my Mew as the opponent revealed their final Pokemon, being the Medicham. I can get 1 shield from the opponent, and honestly, I don't really care too much about my Mew. They go for the Aerial Ace, this is fine. I can just swap into my Pelipper, which is going to be able to outspeed them along the way anyway, as I can still go for the Weather Ball here, which is going to get the shield from the opponent, and I just have to hit another one. And I'm going to hit this one immediately afterwards, because I don't really want to get hit too hard by this Pokemon, and I don't want to get hit by a Psychic either. So, like this, I am going to be energy dry, but also we're going to see the opponent is not going to have the greatest time here against me either, as we will see the Ice Punch coming through and we just have to go for the Hurricane, and we're gonna get there in time. And let's see how much damage it's going to do. It's of course enough. Boom, goodbye their opponent, as we can move on into the second to last game. We're going to have a horrible lead here, or like, it's actually not that bad. It's going to be a little bit of a neutral-ish lead here with the Swampert against us, but the opponent decides to swap out anyway, allowing me to go for a Wild Charge, allowing me to get a shield from the opponent again, and I'm also going to be able to align my Registeel, which is going to be amazing for me, as I can just go for the Zapcan as well, as I resist every single charge move from the opponent, so I don't really have to worry about anything here. Just gonna go straight for the Zapcan and gonna get the damage in there, and of course, again, no debuff, which is, again, something that would have been cool, as the opponent going to hit me now with a Brave Bird, which would have done way less damage otherwise, but still, I can still go for the Focus Blast here, as the opponent decides to just go ahead and move on and go for the Brave Bird. Again, I can still go for another charge move, shouldn't have overfarmed that much. But yeah, we're gonna still see the Pidgeot gonna go down, and we'll now also see the Drapion coming back in, which has to go ahead and go up against the Registeel here, which is going to be fine. We were able to hit a charge move, and we're going to also let this move go through, because we're going to just rely completely solely on my Pelipper at this point of time, because Pelipper is going to be a fairly decent here. Gonna be able to still go for the Weather Ball. This is going to outspeed the opponent. Gonna get the knockout here, and final Pokemon, of course, was the Swampert, which has nowhere to go now. So after having a little bit of a troublesome lead, which is still okay kind of for us, but you're going to lose it usually, it's kind of nice to have this kind of game there. Next opponent, we're going to see a Dugong, and I think I misplayed this game quite a bit. Let's take a look at this one. We're going to see the opponent going for the Ice Event. I can just go for the Wild Charge here eventually. Getting up to 2 Wild Charges so we can do as much damage as possible is going to be very important for me, as I can now still go for another one if I would have went for another one, but the opponent decides to go for their own charge move, which is fine for me. I'm going to now be able to still go into my Registeel, which they're going to try to retaliate here with their Skeledirge, which is not ideal for me, as I'm going to use a shield against the opponent's Shadow Ball, which is, I guess, the best way to use a shield, as I would have taken a lot of damage there from the opponent. I still have to go for the Weather Ball, which does not knock them out, and this should only be a disarming voice, so it's good that we shield up the hard-hitting move beforehand, as now we can just go ahead and go for the for the Hurricane here against the opponent, as this is going to do a ton of damage. It does not knock them out, but it's going to put them into range where this next charge move, the Weather Ball, is going to knock them out. So this is going to be amazing, as we can now see the final Pokemon being the Medicham. Do we still have a chance here against the opponent is the question. Can we still get the debuffs with my Registeel? Zapcan comes through, we're actually gonna get a debuff, which is amazing. And now let's see if we can still have a chance here. The opponent goes for the charge move, but I'm going to use a shield here. Going to be the Psychic, great for us. And I can try to get another debuff against the opponent. Let's see if this is going to work. It does not work, of course, because this is my Registeel, and of course my Registeel doesn't want to go for any debuffs here, but they still can go for their charge move. Ice Punch going to knock me out, and sadly Pelipper will not be able to win this game. But that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.